I would like to welcome us to our second session, our second topic in our business management class. And today I'd like us to focus on business stakeholders. Our focus will include SMEs, of course, that's the last line there. But let us get on into it and see what we have today. So who is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is a person or group of persons with legitimate interests in the affairs of an organization. There are so many descriptions of stakeholders out there. I think these descriptions are still acceptable. And as we navigate in this particular discussion of stakeholders, it'll be very important for us to think about stakeholders in the context of an economic resource, such as a college or indeed a university. Think about the stakeholders of a college, for instance. So we've got under our stakeholder analysis on your screen 3 stakeholder categories. There is what we call internal stakeholders, and this includes the management and staff of, let us say, a business or indeed a college. Think about the second category of stakeholders. We've got connected stakeholders, and these are described as stakeholders who have got beneficial interest in the business. They've invested something in the business. This may include shareholders, trade contacts, debts, capital providers. Then we have got external stakeholders, and these include the public. Let us go a step further and look at a list of stakeholders, and I just wanted to say that it is impossible to list out all the stakeholders of a given economic resource or a business. But we can give out a list of common stakeholders, and these include, number 1, a shareholder. A shareholder is a beneficial owner of the business. These are stakeholders who have invested or bought shares in a business. Their interest, of course, or their objective is that their investment should increase or grow, but they also want to get returns on their investments. They would react if their interest is not met. Their reaction would include the selling of shares if you're dealing with a public limited company. Next, we have got management. This is a group of stakeholders that is charged with the day-to-day management or administration role of the business. These stakeholders carry out what is known as the stewardship role in the business, and of course, they would like to run the business in the interest of the principals, the shareholders. But managers also bring to the fore personal interests. They would like to maximize their remuneration, benefits, allowances that they would derive from the business by, of course, meeting the targets that they have been given. Then you have got employees. This is a group of stakeholders which reports to management. Employees' interests border around the issues concerning job security, concerning career progress, and concerning pay increment. If an employee's interest is not met, they can react. Of course, they can go for greener pastures, or they can engage themselves in what is known as industrial action. They can go on a demonstration. The next stakeholder group is supplier. Now, the interest of the supplier is ability to pay. Does the customer have an ability to pay off obligations as they fall due? Suppliers can react if they are not paid on time. They may stop offering credit supplies, or rather, we can say that, and they may insist that you buy from them on a cash basis, or they may even impose penalties such as overdue interests on overdue invoices. They can react. That is the point. We have got customers as our next stakeholders, and this can be described as stakeholders who provide an organization with repeat business. Customers are looking to deal with reliable suppliers. Think about an institutional customer, such as the government. Think about an institutional customer, such as a public limited company. These institutions normally have supplier lists, and if certain suppliers are falling off their standards, they may blacklist them or remove them from their list of suppliers. That is the customer's interest there. I want us to look at the next stakeholder, the government. This represents the authority that provides, of course, what we call an enabling environment within which the business operates. What is the interest of the government? Tax compliance is one of the interests that the government has. Employment opportunity for citizens, that of course should be the concern of the government, to minimize unemployment. And then we have got stakeholder. The public is, of course, your community where you operate from. A business does not exist in a vacuum. And so the public is interested in CSR actions, corporate social responsibility actions, looking to see if you can plow back in the community, build a school, make some roads, and perhaps build a hospital, a clinic. The public also is interested with employment, with the issues of employment with your institution, your organization. So I hope that I have demystified some, not all, the stakeholders and their potential interests in an organization. Now we want to look at the issue of conflict of interest. It is impossible, we should admit, for an organization to satisfy the interests of all stakeholders. This means that stakeholder interests must be prioritized in order of the importance of a given stakeholder. Now, what is important may not be urgent. Organizations must identify and prioritize stakeholder interests. Now, a good example of conflict of interest is that which happens between managers and shareholders. Managers are responsible for the day-to-day running of the business, and of course, they're incentivized. In other words, they're given targets to meet so that if they can demonstrate that they can improve shareholders' wealth, then they can be entitled to some benefits. Now that leads to what we call short-termism, where managers embark on what is known as shortcuts. They may provide substandard products as a result of cost reduction strategies, and that would compromise or reduce the competitive advantage of the business. Now, in the short term, the managers would meet their targets, but in the long term, the company may not be able to be competitive, may not be competitive. So you see, the managers have met their short-term goals, but the company's long-term survival has been compromised. Let us look at the matrix on the next slide to attempt to address stakeholder prioritization. Mendelow's matrix discusses stakeholders prioritization along the thoughts of level of interest as well as power. We can see from what we have before us that stakeholder A has got low level of power as well as interest, but stakeholder D has got high power and high interest, whereas stakeholder B and C have got one of the two. Stakeholder B has got high interest but less power. Is that so? Yes. And stakeholder C has got high power and less interest. So let us define those words before we can analyze or make a conclusion on the matrix. And I hope that you're writing. Again, I always encourage students to write. Power means ability to influence strategy of an organization. Then interest means the interests of stakeholders in the success of the organization. So we discussed the segments. We said stakeholder D has got both high power and high interest, and these type of stakeholders are key players in the success of the strategy of the organization. So strategy to them must be acceptable. So these stakeholders may include customers, a key customer or a key member of staff. We have got segment A. Let me go to A so that we don't take too much time. Segment A has got low power and low interest. Minimal effort must be exerted on this type of a stakeholder. This may include a member of the public who is not directly interested in what the business is doing. We have got segment B, and we say segment B has got high interest but does not have power. So an example here would be an employee. All right. And then we have got segment C. Segment C, we say it has got high power but low interest. This could include shareholder or financial lender. And these stakeholders only get too much interested in the organization's activities when something appears to be wrong. So let us remember Mendelow's suggestions, and I would like us to now proceed to SMEs, discuss, and then refer you to some questions So we want to appreciate the fact that SMEs are here to stay, number one. And we want to also appreciate the fact that SMEs form a significant part of any progressive country's economy. Why do we say so? Research shows us that SMEs form the foundation of strong economies across the world. But we also see that SMEs normally do not have wider access to capital, so they've got restricted access to capital, particularly during this time of the pandemic. We see governments across the world bailing out SMEs, perhaps except for developing countries. We have got the issue of SMEs not being listed on stock markets, and that greatly inhibits their ability to raise capital. These SMEs are viewed as risky clients by financial lenders, so again they cannot get substantial resources from banks because banks are afraid that SMEs are likely to default. SMEs lack strong internal controls. Again, when you remember, sole trading or owner-managed entities are over-reliant on their pioneers for refinancing. We have got the next one says, SMEs may not attract and retain a talented management team. So it's unfortunate, but it is true to say that SMEs train employees for the big companies to poach. And then lastly, SMEs growth may attract stricter regulation from authorities. So I'd like to thank you for listening to this video. Remember, we do not have a money problem in the world. We have got a management problem. So I'd like you to manage these questions. Part B and C of question 1. Part B and C of question 1. Write down those questions and let me hear from you. I'd like to thank you for listening to this video.